Hello, everyone. Good morning and warm welcome from my side to this great webinar, the IDSA Insights Talk on how IDSA enables businesses to benefit from GAIA-X. My name is Lars Nagel. I'm the CEO of the International Data Spaces Association, and I'm more than happy that my dear colleague Sebastian Steinbuß is with me. He's CTO of IDSA, and he can give us some deep insights in the GAIA-X architecture and how GAIA-X architecture and IDSA architecture are aligned and being harmonized, and how the groundwork done by IDSA can speed up the creation of the GAIA-X endeavor as a whole. So for all of you, so it's great to have you on the call. I do see like already a lot of people dialed in. Let me, perhaps, no, we are again 3 minutes over time, so we should jump right in. I see that more than 60 people are already dialed in, so this is really great. This is the follow-up session to a previous one, which took place like 2.5 weeks ago, where we presented the first time the joint or the paper explaining the the harmonization of IDSA and GAIA-X architecture and all the contributions to be made by IDSA. So today I would like to reflect on, what does all of this mean for business, for companies, for data spaces endeavors out there? So how can you benefit from the groundwork done by IDSA? What can we reuse? What is already there? How can you get involved? And how can all of us speed up in order to make the European data strategy happen and create this European data space, which is mentioned in the European data strategy? So that should be the task for today. Then I would like to jump right in. I will give you a presentation about roughly 20 minutes. Then I will hand over for a short technical deep dive by Sebastian, and then I will take over for some reflections. And this time I hope that we can really have a Q&A session at the end, so that we not only just broadcast messages, but that we really get in a close interaction with you and answer your question. You are at every time welcome to raise questions via the chat function, and we try to answer them then afterwards. So currently you are in listen-only mode, and use the raise your hand if you want to raise a question, and write questions immediately in the question section at the control panel at the right, and then later on we can also unmute your microphone so that you can raise questions. Then let me jump right into the live session. I see that there's a lot of latency in transferring the slides. Okay, so we can start right now. IDSA is with GAIA-X from the very beginning, and we see that it is a perfect fit with the vision and the mission of both organizations. Therefore, we support strongly GAIA-X, and we contribute a lot on different levels to the success of GAIA-X. It is not only IDSA as an organization, so which means the head office, but it's also our members, and mostly our members, which really transfer knowledge into GAIA-X, so that it is right from the start on a great success, and that we will reach our goals as fast as possible. So what is our role in GAIA-X? So it's all about data sharing. If you have a look at the GAIA-X, then there's the bottom part and the top part. The bottom part tackling the issue of cloud and edge infrastructure, interconnection between internet nodes and all of this. And at the very top, you have the data in motion aspect, so sharing data, combining data endpoints, focusing also on the semantic part of data spaces. And well, today we want to talk about implications for business and the real business needs. So it is all about vital ecosystems, and we all want to create these vital ecosystems so that we have, well, really a colorful data space, a colorful, diversified data economy. So combining all different kinds of data endpoints from cloud environments, from open data, data endpoints which are sensors or mobile devices. So it's a plurality of data endpoints, and the sum of all of this enlarges the pool of data which is available to really create value. This is necessary for every single domain, but also for higher goals, like really a new era of artificial intelligence. So we need more data, and therefore we have to set up data spaces which are interoperable and harmonized in a certain way so that we end up in these ecosystems. Yeah, but well, as you can derive from this picture, we all want to see the fish and other animals flow and live in the reef. Well, we know that there's always a secret governance behind these ecosystems, so even in nature. And we need some resilient structures so that it stays like this, that it flourishes, that it stays so colorful. And that is what we want to achieve with GAIA-X, and where IDSA can contribute a lot. Today, I want to draw our attention a little bit on, okay, what is really the secret source behind all of this? So what do we have to go for? Well, at the end, we all want to have data sovereignty, right? So because then everyone is able to share data following his or her ideas and requirements. Well, we teamed up with a lot of other organizations which are dealing with the issue of data sovereignty since years, and we want to really create awareness. So I want to drop this slide here. So with also organizations which are more targeted at the personal data sharing, we started this, it's a marketing campaign, Data Sovereignty Now, so that we really show the benefit for data sharing. Because what we do see benefits are not only in business, benefits are to be found all over society. So it's a lot of messages out there which target somehow at data sovereignty. So it ranges from privacy protection to digital trust, but also well, decentralization, data spaces, and all of this. And all of this benefits or contributes benefit for not only business, but also for government and us as people. And therefore, we should really work on realizing the European data strategy with GAIA-X and IDSA and a lot of other concepts in there, so that we really can benefit from this. And well, now today we want to focus on business. So well, that is what the field we are working in. And here you can see what data sovereignty, which is well, in the first a very like high-level wording and strategic and political field. So what does that mean for us in daily life and in business life? Well, data sovereignty means that you really can combine data sets from different worlds, that you can move data sets from one world to another, and that you are able to stay in control of what happens. So that holds true for us as individuals. So we want to transform our social media profile from Facebook to whatever, Google+. But this also means that that we can, well, make use of data sets which are of which contain maybe a lot of business secrets, that we find mechanisms how we can make them available for AI training purposes. And you see a lot of well, ideas what data sovereignty really is. And I think we all want to have this in place, and therefore we have to do some things so that it really can be can happen. And one core idea which is described in the European data strategy, but also in the position paper by BDVA, is we have to really succeed in creating convergence between data spaces. We have to make them interoperable and in a certain way harmonize them. So, okay, what is the role of IDSA here? We provide some of these resilient structures to really well, go for this convergence. So we have a reference architecture which sets like the framework conditions, which is completely technology agnostics and referring to existing standards. But one step above this is we describe with our reference architecture and with the IDSA rulebook also a trust framework and a scheme for data sharing, so that we know, okay, how can we interact between all the players in a data space. And then I want to well, move your focus also to the operational side of the world. So, well, once we have erected all the data spaces, we may not end up in silos again and just call them data spaces, right? So the next generation of the cloud platforms. But we really have to see how we harmonize, not only from an architectural perspective, but also from the runtime perspective. And therefore, we have to obviously talk about some data sovereignty services, some core services like identity provisioning, or some registries or brokerage services, which can really be this glue between the data spaces, and well, we call this a soft infrastructure which we have to set up. A first idea of this can be found in the IDSA rulebook, which you can see depicted at the right-hand side once the slide opens. And there we also refer to other rulebooks. So we did not invent rulebooks, right? So when it comes to data sharing, the idea of rulebooks is out there since well, some time. And we have this great rulebook, the data sharing rulebook from Sitra, the Finnish Innovation Fund, which can or shall act as a blueprint for setting up data spaces. So there's a strong focus on the personal data sharing, and we added the industrial perspective, and we started in a close interaction with Zitra and other organizations out there to really formulate how such a soft infrastructure could look like. And well, when we talk about soft infrastructure, we have also to talk about hard infrastructure and how to meet both. And that is exactly what GAIA-X does. And therefore, we have to talk about well, all the agreements for the infrastructure layer that has been done in GAIA-X, for example, in the policy rules, which are described there. And then we have to see, okay, how can we link both worlds? And Gaia proposes the federation services for that. And some groundwork from IDSA can be well included in these federation services. And then we have this link between the data and the cloud world in place, and we can jointly erect this soft infrastructure. So when talking about rulebooks, then I would like to stress here today the dimensions and the perspectives that we deal with in such a rulebook. So we have to definitely talk about, okay, the functional agreement. So who is part of the data sharing ecosystem? Which are the role models? Which are central services? Which are, well, any other services? But then we also have to agree on architecture. Well, that is what all of you mostly probably see. But then we have to focus on the runtime view. So what are administrative agreements? Well, how do we onboard and offboard people to a data space? How do we maintain all of this? And well, what is at the end the overall governance for this? So we must reflect this in order to really create the glue between the different domains, between the different data spaces, and then set up these soft infrastructure. And well, this all ends up with clear design principles for data spaces to be built upon. And well, this month we will release a new paper together with all the organizations I mentioned before on design principles for data spaces, which reflect very fundamental design principles for data spaces. So we reflect data sovereignty. We explain how we can prove and realize interoperability and therefore a level playing field for data sharing and data exchange. Well, what is exactly this distributed soft infrastructure? And then, well, how can we erect and maintain this soft infrastructure? So what will be the public-private governance? So we have GAIA-X AI-SPL, which will take a certain role in there. We have and on the very top in the Data Governance Act, it reads that we will have the Data Innovation Board. The question is, okay, how do we set up this whole governance? So if we really want to build like streets for data, so who says where to put the traffic lights, where's the motorway, and where do we have only a small road, and how do we agree upon this all on a consensual mode? Because, well, we definitely have to go for a consensual mode of agreements and really a federated approach on this, and that has to be done in the future when realizing the European data strategy. So going back to IDSA, GAIA-X, and how to accelerate everything, and especially for business. So this is the picture which I showed already like 3 weeks ago. So when talking about data spaces, we had a really broad range of reflections on how to make data spaces happen. We reflect on what are possible measures to take in order to realize European data strategy. We can contribute a lot about the conceptual idea. Well, why is data sovereignty such a cool idea, and why should we think in data spaces? What is the technical foundation? What are standards to be used? And, well, mostly a community of practice. Where are success stories which we can already have a look on, and embryonic data space which we can, well, then nurture and let grow. There is a lot of track record already in place from IDSA, and we add this to GAIA-X, and it's not only IDSA doing this. So we have BDBA, and we have a lot of other global initiatives in the field of data sharing, which think alike. So this is the overall picture, and so everyone from you in the audience who wants to build a data space or become part of GAIA-X, or, well, at the end it's the same, then here are a lot of points where you can hook into, and you are more than welcome to be part of all of this. I would like to stress two things before handing over to Sebastian. He will do a lot more. One core component, or one core functionality which we need in data spaces is the asset where the data set is provided. So we have a lot of names for this. So you can call it a secure IoT gateway, you can call it a connector, or whatever. We call it a connector, and we came up with a definition of different profiles for this connector, which satisfies all the different needs from economy, from business, from companies, so that you may choose the version you want to have. And the idea of a connector as the pivot to move data from the data provider to the data consumer via whatever mechanism. This is reflected in our reference architecture, and you can see here there are so many varieties how to implement this, so it should really satisfy all needs. And the other thing is, I mentioned it in the beginning, we need a resilient foundation for trust in these data sharing ecosystems. So we have to talk about certification. It is already targeted in the Data Governance Act. We discuss about this in GAIA-X. So we have to in order to create trust between different security domains, between different data spaces, we have to find some common denominator. So a digital identity, but also we have to say, okay, can I trust the partner who provides data, and can I trust into his assets, or the component with which he provides the data? So both has to be certified, and we came up with a certification scheme for this, which can be amended by other certification criteria from the GAIA-X realm, and this could be the foundation for really trustworthy data spaces on European level. With that, I would like to hand over to Sebastian and hear a little bit a technical deep dive on IDS and GAIA-X architecture. Sebastian, please.
Thank you so much, Lars, for your warm words. And for your interesting words. I'm always learning from all the things you say about GAIA-X, because this is really a huge and a new project, and we have so many things to learn and to drive as well. So I want to put one highlight again on our position paper on IDS and GAIA-X. I don't expect that this will be the final saying and the final true, but at least it is an insight from experts that are working within GAIA-X and within IDS for a long period of time, and where they really put a spotlight on the things that we have to care about, where we have to think about, where we have to align things, and important aspects that have to be in place to really set up data spaces and to make use of data spaces enabled by cloud ecosystems, by federated cloud ecosystems. So this paper, you will find it in the handout section here, and of course you can download it from our website. So it's definitely worth to take a look into it. Because, and that is important, IDS and GAIA-X, we share really the same vision of a trustworthy and sovereign system for data exchange and data usage. And I mean, this is an important thing here. We all of us can today generate a lot of data, but we want to put that data into practice, into usage. And of course, not only my data in my system, we have to share data, link data, bring data together and use it. And so the reference architecture model, as we created it, and we worked on this for several years right now, it is kind of mature. And it can be definitely a central element of the GAIA-X architecture. But we still have to discuss and find out how those things relate to each other. And this is an ongoing process. Because GAIA-X provides really cool concepts for data storage and cloud-related things, putting data together in cloud ecosystems, and this can really complement other things that we do in the reference architecture model. And from a business perspective, it shall not make a difference if we are in, let me say, pure data spaces where only peer-to-peer data exchange between different organizations is happening, or if we just use cool cloud services. But for me, the third perspective is of utmost importance. We need somehow systems and services, such cool data analytics services, AI services, that are able to combine data sets from different providers under certain conditions, respecting rights and obligations, and then we can really generate cool new value out of data based on a federated cloud infrastructure. And this is the thing that we do have to shape and then where we do have to come up with within GAIA-X and IDS. And therefore it's important that we both make use of the same basic principles and we have the same values that really shall ensure a consistent value proposition across all of those data spaces that we want to flourish. So, but having said this, maybe some insights from what is happening within GAIA-X, at least from my perspective. So we will have a new technical architecture document somewhere in April. So content-wise, everything is settled. We are reviewing the document. And so the bad news is here, it's not the final one. The good news is it's not the final one. So we still have a long way to go and to shape things and to develop things, but it's all our turn right now to shape this system, this federated system in the cloud that we named GAIA-X. It is important for us to bring in our requirements, to bring in technologies, expertise, and knowledge to make really a usable system out of this that really delivers all the value that we all want to have from it. So one important thing that I want to put a spotlight on is, of course, GAIA-X is dealing mainly currently on the federation services, identity and trust, a federated catalog, enabling sovereign data exchange and putting a common compliance on top of GAIA-X services and data exchange mechanisms. And one important aspect is that identity and trust management inside GAIA-X will strongly rely on decentralized identifiers, DIDs, and also verified credentials. This is something new. So it's not the ultimate mature technology that we are using in industry for decades. It's something new. But here GAIA-X can be really an enabler of a new cool technology, and it can lead to broad adoption of this technology. Of course, there are a bunch of risks inside, but I see a lot of benefits in there. Because based on this mechanism and having those mechanisms really in place in a data sharing infrastructure, this is what we are targeting at, really enables data exchange and data usage across different kind of businesses and across different kind of domains. With regards to the data sovereignty services and data sovereignty support, we are strongly working currently on a mechanism inside GAIA-X that supports data sharing contracts, so that you have a mechanism to put rights and obligations on top of every data exchange, on top of every data usage. You have a contract. and you can place a contract. You can negotiate a contract on top of GAIA-X. And even, for example, for open data. So if the obligation is, you may use it as you like, it's also good to have it written down. And this is an important service to have inside such a data sharing infrastructure, including a mechanism to really lock all those data transactions. I agree to this contract and I enforce this contract, I can assure you. And here we have really an interface and a strong intersection with the things that we do in IDS, using usage contracts, usage policies, and enforcing such usage policies. One important aspect for GAIA-X that is currently under heavy discussion is about the trust anchor for the federations. So we have different federations inside GAIA-X, and we have to shape this. What is a federator for GAIA-X ecosystems? How many will we have? How will they be enabled and entitled? And who will really be the ultimate trust anchor? Will it be the GAIA-X ISBL? Will it be something different? This is something that is under discussion and that we do have to shape how to set up such federations into practice. And looking back to my last year of working, this is an important and hard work to do. We've created the IDSA rulebook to do so, and GAIA-X will also be the one to use or to create a rulebook to set the common rules and the common structures, agreed structures for setting up federations as described in the GAIA-X architecture. This is an important thing that we do have to do and where we have to look at. And again, we should look at what everyone else already did and what was already provided to really bring things together, align different things with each other, and come up really with an architectural standard as it is a general idea of GAIA-X. And coming from that, then it's still open the question, how can we put in our ideas of such cool IDS connectors and data sharing as described in the IDS reference architecture together with GAIA-X. And here we do have still a lot of work to do, and I'm really looking forward to solve that question. How can we set up such cool data connectors, data spaces on top of infrastructures like GAIA-X and share it along different cloud nodes, along different providers, using the right provider for my kind of data or for different kind of data that have to be provided. So this is an ongoing work, and how can we align this, all these, with the thing that we have done so far, with our rulebook, with IDS certification, with GAIA-X compliance checks, and so on and so forth. I'm really looking forward to that work to really drill down there in detail. And having said this, I would give back to you, Lars.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. That was great insights. And I try to regain control over my slides, so there they are. Great. Yeah, thank you very much. And well, I'm looking forward to the discussion at the end. Meanwhile, I would like to stress some or another perspective of how to really make things happen. So this holds true for IDSA, but this also holds true for GAIA-X. So it's great to have a look on all of this from the architectural perspective, but well, we have to bring things to life. We have to build data spaces, and currently what we do see is mostly a collection of really convincing, really valuable use cases, and we have to, well, merge them and enlarge them so that we can really make data spaces out of a, well, collection of use cases. So we say that we have to move from this one-to-one data sharing scenarios via a use case which is mostly a few-to-few data sharing scenario towards a many-to-many, M2N data sharing scenario, so that we really have a lot of data providers, a lot of data consumers in a data space, a lot of services which are provided and which can be used by all of the participants in such a data sharing ecosystem, which we call data spaces. So we really have to talk about how to build data spaces, and therefore we have to have a look on really a holistic perspective. So we have to, in the first, motivate and explain and make clear the business incentive why we should share data in a data space, because otherwise, if there's no business need behind, the whole endeavor does not make sense. So definitely we have to talk about this motivation. And well, what I want to present here is an idea how we can move from, well, just convincing use cases to a data space. This is more or less a methodology, well, perspective on what has to be done. We have done this in IDSA since some time, since years. So make use cases a data space. And well, in our term, we call it the launch coalition. And we currently bring this idea of, so it's like a training camp for data spaces and the training camp for use cases. We bring this idea to GAIA-X, and currently we are setting up a group which tackles this idea, so a holistic perspective on really creating these data sharing ecosystems in GAIA-X. In GAIA-X, you know that we have the national hubs with a lot of convincing use cases. There's a huge collection out there. We watched the great presentations in the GAIA Summit on the data space endeavors born in the GAIA-X context, but we know that also next to GAIA-X, there are a lot of endeavors out there. So, for example, by European funded projects, so there are hundreds of projects out there. They all want to build data spaces. So, and in the beginning, I said, okay, we have to we have this issue of convergence, and we have the issue of, well, increasing the maturity of all of this. And that is the phase which we are in right now, and which will be with us probably the next 2 and 3 years. So come from all this collection of great use cases and towards really data spaces. So therefore, what I want to position here is, let's go really this methodology approach and have a look from a holistic perspective on creating data spaces. So what you can see here is, so we want to, from the starting point, from convincing use cases to a fully implemented a data space, a real life data space, a fully implemented use case. And therefore, we have, as mentioned before, we have to focus on the business case and the clear incentive models. Then definitely we have to build the solutions, we have to code, we have to build the cloud infrastructure to connect the GAIA nodes. We have to insert data space connectors everywhere and there. So that has to be done, and therefore we have to work on like proof of concepts and then increase the maturity level more and more. And we also have to agree on, well, all these commonalities and the glue, which I was talking about before. So we need something like a rule book in place. So that has to be done. And I think we mentioned already some points where to start from. And then we need to add all the measures and the methods to make this happen. So you can see at the very bottom of this slide a way how to move from a use case towards the real life data space. And well, when creating or talking about the use case, we have to see, well, did we reflect everything in the use case? Is it really a holistic one? Do we have the supply side represented? Do we have the demand side represented? Is it connected to the overall framework? So the essential services, the federation services from GAIA-X, for example, but also do they make use of some identity mechanism, for example, EIDS or whatever? So we have to check, is there really a holistic and complete picture of the use case? Then we have to add, and we do this in IDSA, but we have to do more. So for example, in GAIA-X, but also perhaps on European level, we have to monitor all of this so that we can see how maturity level increases per endeavor, per data space. And therefore, well, harmonization starts here. We have to describe these use cases so that we continuously can monitor and see where things are in the position to be merged or being made larger and so on. And then this ends up at the very right bottom corner of the slide in such a overall observatory of data spaces, what's going on. And here I really want to stress again convergence. GAIA-X is definitely the great project on European level, the go-to place, and from Gaia we will add a lot of use cases and here to such an overview. But also we have the European funded projects. We have a lot of industry-driven initiatives, and if we want to talk about data spaces, then we have to bring all of this together, and only then we can really speak of a data space with like thousands of participants per data space in a domain. And I think I answer with this one question from the question panel. What is a data space? Well, a data space can be something very small. So any data sharing scenario can be called a data space. The question is this endeavor thought to be interoperable with others? So, and is it built according to the design principles, the common or generic design principles, so that it could be interoperable in the future? This is a data space, and each consortium may decide if it is thought to become bigger and bigger over time, or do you just make use of the design principles and follow your goals. So data spaces may be small, may be very big, they may be nested, they may be overlapping. So that is the beauty in data spaces. It's a very vital, agile way of data management, of sharing data, and therefore it could fulfill all the needs from all businesses, from all domains, and you are always able to intervene, to interconnect with other companies, with other data spaces, if they are designed following some generic design principles. That is the message. So what can be done in order to create these vital ecosystems? We need some GAIA-X, IDSA, but all our ecosystems. We can provide all the knowledge which is needed how to set up these data spaces. So we need a lot of training. We need a lot of knowledge transfer. So we need the consultants. We need the research and technology organizations to tell everyone and how data spaces are being built. Then second, we need the soft infrastructure so that we really can insert trust into these data sharing ecosystems. So unique digital identifiers, for example, but also a thorough certification scheme. We can make use of the IDS certification, but there are other certification schemes out there, and probably we will add more so that everyone can choose what he feels is right. And then we really can connect and build ecosystems. And that is my message here. We have a lot of ideas how to build ecosystems, how to connect. There are great blueprints out there. So, for example, the Data Sharing Coalition in the Netherlands, which is on the road for over a year to harmonize between different data spaces to identify which are these generic design principles. There's the coordinating and support action, OpenDI, on European level, which does exactly this. And my plea is let's reuse all of this in GAIA-X. So you know that I'm a member of the board of directors of GAIA-X. So we insert this already in what we're doing there, and this is the only way, teaming up, and this is the only way to really create convergence in this whole idea of data spaces. Sorry. Well, going back to IDSA, so what can we do, or what do we offer, and how can we contribute to this success? So you can see here like two streams which we do offer in order to really create data spaces. So on the top part, you see most of what Sebastian described, so that we really build this resilient foundation for data spaces, so a certification scheme, the reference architecture, the rule book, and reference implementations in an open source manner. So that is what we provide and what we can bring to the table. And then we have a dedicated adoption stream where everyone is invited to follow us, well, supported by all the measures and methodologies which I mentioned, to follow from a great and convincing use case really to a flourishing data sharing ecosystem, which we could call a data space. So that is what we have to do. Well, this is nothing unique. That is nothing what we invented. And therefore, I would invite everyone to have a look at that and to see if you can use some of these ideas to build your data space. And IDSA joins forces with GAIA-X on that regard, also with BDVA. So because we are all working towards this great vision of data spaces, and that is what we want to realize. We are already on track. We did a lot. We have a lot of success stories out there. So it is not that data spaces are new, or that there are, well, no data spaces existing. Well, it is exactly the other way around. There are already data spaces out there. There are great examples. So we have the Smart Connected Supplier Network in the Netherlands. We have iShare. We have the Datenraum Mobilität, mobility data space in Germany as a large and trailblazing project in this regard. In Finland, we have great industrial use cases. So let's have a look at this and learn from them and see how all these harmonization endeavors have been taking place. Well, you see that you are not alone. We have a lot of companies which are, well, so-called first movers for data spaces. We have a lot of companies which are, well, happy to help. So this is also a call for the research and technology organizations and also to the consultancies. Data spaces is something new, and we have to tell the world and the companies that this is a great way of doing business and sharing data. So please, let's try to insert this idea of making things happen to all our ecosystems, be it GAIA-X, be it IDSA, be it the realization of the European data strategy. And this leads me to the end of my part of this live session. So we are always talking about a federated data sharing ecosystem. We are talking about convergence. We are talking about harmonization between data spaces. So, well, what does that mean? Well, it's exactly depicted here. So we want to make use of the power of the many, right? So this is the idea of data spaces. This is why this federated approach for data spaces, for data sharing, is so sexy, because it reflects that, well, you stay an individual, an individual company, an individual person, but you can team up very easily because there are some harmonized generic principles, and all of a sudden you can act in a much larger ecosystem and gain a lot more than you would have been able to achieve on your own. And this picture, well, this is the European data space. This picture is GAIA-X. And well, we have to harmonize so that we all swim in the same direction, while staying in control of what your individual goals are. And so we can follow one vision. So, well, all fight a much bigger fish on the one hand side, but on the other hand side, we can act according to individual strategies and goals. And that is, I think, exactly the vision which we all see in GAIA-X, which we all see in the data strategy of the European Commission. And well, let's realize it. I hope that we could add some insights and give you some insights on this. Well, you are invited. So please join GAIA-X AISBL to have this overall view on vital data sharing ecosystems. Join IDSA if you want to co-create the resilient foundation for data spaces, the reference architecture, the rulebook, and so on. Or, well, just join one or the other endeavor which I depicted to become part of a data space and to really move into this great way of co-creation of value. So thank you very much for listening. And now I would love to move into the question and answer session. So I try to, well, have a brief look at the questions. I would ask Andreas, are we able to unmute the microphones?
Yeah, this is Andreas speaking. Everyone is enabled to unmute him or herself, so you can open your micro and bring yourself in.
Yeah, so before opening your micro, please raise your hand so that I can take your questions. Yeah, so please feel free to raise your issue in parallel. Okay, currently I do not see raised hand. So Andreas, you may assist me once you see one. I try to go through the
yeah, so meanwhile, Andrea Roversi has opened his micro, and maybe he has also a question. Maybe he would like to ask a question.
Yes, hello. Sorry, sorry, I didn't understand. It was my turn. So simply, I noticed that you have US players inside the project. So my question is, why into an European project we need the US forces?
Yeah, well, this is to a certain extent a very political question, and yeah, well, my opinion on this is we formulate in the vision of GAIA-X that we follow the European values, and I think from a democracy perspective, we want other countries, other players to take up these values. First. Second, all members and all corporates, or the companies are doing business globally. So everyone is in interaction with customers or suppliers from other continents and from the US. So I think this is the clear understanding of GAIA-X. We have to be in close interaction when it comes to requirements and the market needs with other continents. So that is why GAIA-X invites companies from all over the world, under the condition that they follow the same vision, and this means the European values. So, and the GAIA-X ASBL, it's a non-profit organization. So the goal of it is to create a great solution which has more features based on a very sophisticated federated approach of sharing data. So that is probably the argumentation, and I personally feel that it is absolutely necessary to stay in contact with these players.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So here's one nice question from Rune Carlsen. So what observability on data usage is provided for participants? Is observability shared and open for everyone, and how are exchanges monitored? By a central authority, or is there open transparency as logs, history of transactions? Well, that is a great question. And this targets perfectly at the idea of this soft infrastructure. Well, first, this is exactly the essential services which we do need. So we need like a data transaction logging. We need a certain we need a registry of participants, and perhaps we need like a rating mechanism for participants. So who did share great data sets, or for example. So and the idea of data spaces and of this federated approach is that we just not have a central instance, but that we find consensus on what will be needed. And so probably this may differ between the different domains, and therefore you can fix this in one domain differently than in the other. But maybe some of these data sets, some of these logs, and some of the data usage or whatever may be of interest for another domain. So then we have to make sure that a part of it is maybe like closed or anonymized or whatever, or not shown at all, while others are brought to a more broader audience, so that other players in the data space, other data consumers may make use of it, may have a look at such a service. And this is the beauty in this in GAIA-X. So there will be a service catalog, so this federated catalog, and we will see all these services there. Then the ecosystems are free to choose to what extent to use these services. So and then when it comes to the data, to the soft infrastructure, we have to decide, okay, which part of this information is mandatory and which is not mandatory. So where you are free to choose, and that is what we jointly have to describe. And this exactly targets at why we need rule books, because we exactly have to discuss that. So thank you, Rune, for this great question. So it's 12 o'clock. So one question on IDS certification. You can find it on our website. There are third-party neutral evaluation facilities out there which will conduct these certification, and they are also related to things which are already existing. So Bert, perhaps we can answer that separately. And well, multi-party data sharing or peer-to-peer data sharing, for me it's the same. So definitely it's multi-party data sharing. It's also data visiting, which we all strive for. So really, well, publishing data so that the whole ecosystem can consume it according to the usage constraints you attach to each data set. Yeah, so thank you very much for joining. It's a pity that time is over. We will answer the questions afterwards. Thank you for being with us. It was a pleasure. Let's stay in contact. Feel free to raise your questions, and most importantly, join GAIA-X, join IDSA, join all our endeavors wherever you live. So even all our organizations, they converge more and more. We are in a close interaction. Let's build data spaces. That's my message. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and see us on some other occasion these days. Goodbye from my side.